Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. I am Claire, 32, and my husband's phone would not shut up. It rattled on the coffee table while I tried to ignore it. The screen lit up again, and this time I grabbed it first. I was not snooping that night, at least that is what I told myself. His coworker's name sat at the top of the thread like a dare. A new message blinked open before I could talk myself out of it. There was a selfie from her with her chin lifted and lips pushed out. Under it, she had typed a joke about him abandoning her at happy hour, then a line that hit harder than the picture ever could. "You still owe me that drink alone, remember?" My chest did that stupid tight thing while my brain tried to stay calm. For a second I thought maybe this was some office inside joke I did not get. Then I saw his last reply sitting right above hers like a confession. "You know I would spoil you if we ever escaped that place." The front door clicked and I almost dropped the phone. Ryan walked in with his keys still in his hand and his eyes went straight to the screen. We locked eyes in that weird heavy silence where no one wants to speak first. The phone buzzed again in my palm like it was impatient too. I already knew this was bad, I just did not know how bad yet. He reached out and grabbed the phone like it belonged to him and I was a stranger. "What are you doing with that?" His voice came out too sharp for a normal question. I swallowed and stared at the picture still floating on the chat like it might vanish. "Your coworker sent you this tonight, right?" He tapped the screen, closed the image, opened it again like he needed time. "That was meant for the group chat." He blew out a short laugh that did not reach his eyes. "You know how she is, always being dramatic." I did not know actually that was the problem digging at me. "Since when does your coworker send you selfies after work?" My voice shook and I hated that because it made me sound weak. He rolled his shoulders like this was already boring him. "She jokes around with everyone, the whole team gets stuff like that. Do they also get promises about drinks alone, or is that just your perk?" He finally looked straight at me and his face hardened in the slow shift I recognized. "You are reading into nothing again." He set the phone down with a flat thud that made me jump. "You have got to stop spying through my stuff every time you feel off." The word spying stung more than the picture, somehow that felt worse. "I was not digging through anything, your phone was buzzing nonstop beside me. If this is nothing, then why does it look like a date?" He rubbed his forehead and laughed, this dry sound that made my skin crawl. "Because you take everything the worst possible way, that is why. Most wives would trust their husbands instead of building stories from one screenshot." There it was, the twist that always made me feel like a problem. I could feel my shoulders curl in while he talked. Maybe I did grab the phone too fast. Maybe a normal wife would have laughed with him and moved on. Or maybe a normal wife would not be staring at some girl pouting at her husband. He paced near the couch and started listing old moments when I had doubted him. "You have been like this since my promotion, jumpy and suspicious for no reason." He threw his hands up like I was some kid he could not reason with. "I bust my ass for us and you treat me like a villain." The word villain hung there and I was not sure which of us he meant anymore. I took a breath and tried to slow everything down because my thoughts were sprinting. "Okay, then just tell me why she thinks you owe her a night alone." My voice came out softer, yet somehow the room felt louder. He stared at the floor for a beat and that tiny pause scared me more than yelling. It looked like he was searching for a version of the truth that would cost him the least. "We joked about drinks after a long meeting, that was it." His eyes finally met mine and he kept them wide and innocent. "She has a crush or whatever and she does this with everyone." I did not want to embarrass her by shutting it down too harshly, so now I was the one who should feel guilty for seeing what was right there. In the moment I half believed him because it was easier than imagining the other option. I wanted this to be awkward flirting that I could roll my eyes at. I wanted to be the cool partner who shrugs and trusts, but my hand still shook and my heart still hammered against my ribs like something was trying to get out. Later, I would see that feeling as my last clear warning before everything slid off the rails. The fight fizzled out the way ours usually did, with me nodding first. He kissed my forehead like a peace offering and went to shower. While the water ran, I stood in the hallway with the phone still heavy in my hand. The chat thread sat open and silent, yet it felt louder than any argument we had ever had. I could have deleted it right then and maybe saved myself months of pretending not to know. Later in bed, he turned his back and fell asleep faster than I thought possible. I stared at the ceiling and replayed that line from her over and over. "You still owe me that drink alone." Every time I heard it again, something in me twisted tighter. I told myself I would drop it in the morning, yet my body already knew this was not over. Writing this now, I can see how many chances I gave him in that one night. Every time he twisted the story, I bent with it just to keep the peace. I did not want to be the jealous wife, so I tried to be the reasonable one. Back then, I thought that made me mature. Now I see it just made me easy to lie to. He tightened his tie for the second morning in a row. That was the first thing that scraped my nerves. He almost never dressed up unless someone warned him. I watched from the bed and counted the small changes: fresh shave, new shirt, extra cologne. Every detail felt like a clue I could not quite name. "Big deal at work or what?" I tried to make it light. He checked his reflection and adjusted his collar again. We have clients in today, his jaw flexed once. Nothing dramatic, just need to look like I know what I'm doing. The joke landed flat, my stomach did that slow twist anyway. I leaned on the doorway. I could swing by for lunch near your office. That came out casual, at least that is what I thought. There's that place you like around the corner. He grabbed his watch and shook his head before I finished. This whole week is packed, back-to-back meetings, you would be waiting alone. I could have let it drop, instead I pushed one more inch. Someday this week then, just pick one. He finally glanced over, eyes tight. I am telling you, this week is insane. Stop trying to wedge yourself into my schedule. The phrase hit harder than he seemed to notice. He walked out with his travel mug and a quick kiss on my cheek. My lips barely caught up before he was at the door. I stood there in socks and old shorts, suddenly aware of how unpolished I looked next to whatever he was marching into. When I replay it now, that stupid contrast still stings. An hour later, my phone chimed with his text. Morning, sorry if I snapped, I am under pressure. No mention of lunch, no suggestion, just that little apology that looks caring on paper. I typed back a thumbs up and stared at the empty bubble that never filled again. The rest of the day dragged while I tried not to stare at the time. I told myself if he texted a break, I would drop everything and meet him. He did not. Around 4, I checked his profile instead just to feel close to him in some pathetic way. That choice opened a door I wish I had left locked. Her name sat right near the top of his recent activity, hearts under photos from years ago that no one had touched in forever. Comments like classic you and still obsessed with this one under pictures I thought of as ours. My chest tightened while I scrolled. When did she have time to go hunting through his life like that? I clicked on one of her posts without meaning to. There he was in the background of a group shot inside a bar I did not recognize. Everyone held drinks and leaned in. He was right next to her, shoulder pressed close. The caption mentioned team night out last month. He had told me that evening was a late work session. I heard the front door just as my thumb hovered over that photo again. He walked in loosened and tired, tie already yanked halfway down. You look wiped. I forced a small smile. He dropped his bag and stretched. Long one, I warned you. He brushed my hand and moved past me toward the kitchen. At dinner his watch lit up near his plate. I would not have looked if he had not snatched his wrist so fast. That reaction made my eyes follow the motion. I caught a glimpse of her name in the preview. He cleared the alert with one sharp tap. Everything okay? My fork stopped mid-air. He pushed food around and kept his gaze on the table. Work stuff, you do not need to worry about it. My voice came out cooler. Is work stuff texting you during dinner really normal now? He exhaled hard. This is what happens when I move up. People need me, not everything is some affair. That last word spilled out a little too loud. I had not even said it yet. The fact that he did made my pulse kick. I am not accusing you of that. I set my fork down so it would not rattle. I am telling you this feels off. He leaned back and stared at me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. You know what this sounds like? His fingers tapped the table. It sounds like you are insecure and looking for proof that I am the bad guy. The word insecure landed low in my chest. You keep twisting normal things into evidence. That is not healthy. I hated how quickly I started wondering if he was right. He went on before I could answer. You have been edgy for months. Ever since your birthday, you have been acting like everything is a threat. He lifted his hands, palms open. Maybe talk to someone about that. A professional, I am serious. The calm tone made it worse, like he was doing me a favor by calling me broken. I stared at the table and tried to breathe through the burn behind my eyes. Somewhere under the shame, another thought pushed up. If I am really that unstable, why are you still joking with this girl after hours? I did not say it out loud. I just watched him quietly finish his meal and pretend the conversation was over. Later we sat on the couch with the TV playing something I barely tracked. His phone rested beside him, screen facing up. I told myself not to look. I lasted maybe 10 minutes. He laughed at something on the screen and reached for his drink. Another message flashed across his lock screen while his hand moved away. Her name again, a heart emoji, a line I could not fully read before the screen faded. He went still for a split second, then grabbed the phone and flipped it over. My entire body clenched. She texts you a lot for someone who is just dramatic at work. The words came out before I could stop them. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Do you hear yourself? You are counting my notifications now. His voice shook for the first time that day. I cannot breathe without you reading into it. I am one step away from changing my number just so I can exist without a courtroom at home. That courtroom line would echo in my head for weeks. I almost apologized. That was the sick part. A big piece of me wanted to smooth things over and prove I was not this jealous stereotype he kept painting. Instead, I swallowed hard. If everything is so innocent, let me see the last few messages between you two. My heart pounded so loud I could feel it in my throat. He stared at me like I had slapped him. Absolutely not. He stood up fast and snatched his phone again. That is private, not because of anything dirty, just because I am a grown man entitled to some boundaries. He paced once across the room. Do you want me reading through your chats with your friends and analyzing every emoji? The funny part is that I would have handed mine over in a second. I did not mention that. It would not have mattered. He was already building his argument. This is not about trust at this point. His voice dropped lower. This is about control. You cannot manage your own anxiety, so you try to manage me instead. I slept badly that night, if you can even call it sleep. Every time his watch glowed from the nightstand, my eyes snapped open. I did not reach for it. I just lay there and stared, counting each silent vibration like it was a warning shot. He snored softly beside me, completely unbothered. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up on rest. I walked to the living room and sat on the floor with my back against the couch. My mind replayed his words from dinner in a loop: insecure, controlling, unhealthy, over and over until they almost felt like facts. In that state, it was very easy to forget what I had seen with my own eyes. I grabbed my own phone instead of his, opened his profile again. My thumb moved faster this time, like I wanted to rip the bandage off. Her comments were not just on old posts. New ones too, little inside references I did not get. She called him trouble under a photo from a weekend I remembered clearly. He never mentioned she followed him that closely. One story of hers stopped me cold, a short clip from an office event. People laughed, glasses clinked. The camera panned for a second across a table. He sat next to her, leaning in so she could shout something in his ear over the noise. His hand brushed her shoulder as he nodded. It was small, casual, intimate in a way that did not match the man who had just lectured me about boundaries. I shut the app and locked the screen, but the images stayed bright in my mind. I wanted someone else in the room to look at all of this and say, "No, you are not crazy, that is weird." Instead, it was just me and the quiet. I wrapped my arms around my knees and tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Looking back now, this was the chapter where the gaslighting really dug in. He gave me just enough apology to keep me hooked and just enough blame to keep me doubting. Every new detail that made my skin crawl came wrapped in a speech about my supposed issues. By the end of that week, I was more afraid of being dramatic than I was of being betrayed. Her hand already rested on his forearm when I walked in. That was my first clear look at her. He was laughing at something she had just finished saying. She tipped her head back in this easy way, like she had known him for years. My feet kept moving even while my brain yelled slow down. He noticed me a second later and straightened fast. His arm slipped away from her without any big gesture, just a quick pull back. "Hey, you made it." He brushed my shoulder, almost too quick to feel. She turned toward me with that bright, practiced smile people use when they want to be liked. "You must be her," she asked. Tapped closer and opened her arms. I froze a half beat, then let her hug me. "I have heard so much about you." Her perfume hit me before the words finished. Tight squeeze, then she pulled back and scanned my face like she was checking a box. Somewhere inside I already knew she was not new to him. He introduced us with a vague wave, nothing like the warm tone he used with her second earlier. She stuck her hand out again anyway. "I am Emily, finally." She laughed like this was some big long-awaited reunion. "You do marketing, right?" My mouth went dry. That was not my field. That was never my field. "No, I do operations." I watched her blink once. "Close, though." It was not close at all. She shrugged and smiled wider. "He only ever brags that you are the smart one." I filled in the rest. She nudged his arm and he gave that polite chuckle men use when they want everyone calm. None of this matched the version of him I lived with. She shifted the focus back to him without missing a beat. "You should have seen him in the meeting today." Her voice picked up speed. "Total shark. He tore through that report and left everyone speechless." He rubbed the back of his neck, acting shy, but he looked pleased. I watched them share that little victory look and felt suddenly sidelined. We moved toward the rest of the group. People clapped his shoulder and joked around. Emily stayed close on his right, so I slipped to his left without thinking. Every time he reached for his drink, his arm brushed one of us. My body kept a small distance. Hers did not. That difference sat in my throat like a stone. I tried small talk with her while everyone ordered another round. "So how long have you been with the company?" She twisted her straw between her fingers. "A little over a year." She glanced at him, then back at me. "Best part of the job is honestly your husband." She grinned like that was harmless. My pulse kicked hard anyway. I pushed through the buzzing in my ears. "Best part, huh?" She laughed again. "He makes the long days less painful. He always stays late with me, so I am not the last one stuck there." Her eyes flashed toward him in this quick way, like they shared a secret joke. He cleared his throat and reached for his glass again. "You make it sound like I live at the office." He bumped her shoulder with his. "I do go home sometimes." The way he said home landed oddly, like it was a side project instead of his life. My fingers tightened around my drink. I tried to play it off. Good to know someone is making him fun at work. Emily perked up at that. "Oh, he is fun. He's the only one who will sneak out with me for coffee when the day drags." She turned fully toward him. "What is your order again?" "Triple shot, extra foam, no sugar." She did not even have to think. It rolled out like a well-rehearsed line. I had to work to keep my face neutral. I tested a different angle. "He never remembers my order that well." I meant it as a joke. It came out sharper. His jaw tightened for a blink. "Okay, wow." He let out a short laugh that carried zero warmth. "Is this going to be an interrogation night or a normal one?" Emily glanced between us, amused and curious. I backed off because I did not want to be the cliché. "Just teasing." I lifted my glass, took a long swallow, tried to breathe. Inside my chest, everything rattled. They kept slipping into a rhythm that did not leave much space for me. I nodded along and filed every tiny detail away for later. At some point, the group thinned and the noise dipped. Emily leaned her elbows on the table. We should all go back to that rooftop place. Her eyes lit up. Last time we were there, you almost soaked my shoes during that toast. She laughed and pointed at him like this was an adorable memory. My head jerked up. There was no way to play dumb now. You two went to a rooftop place. I kept my voice level. He flicked his gaze toward her in this quick flash, then he smiled too wide. She is mixing me up with someone else. He knocked his knuckles lightly on the table. I have never been to a rooftop bar with you, Em. Her smile faltered for just a breath. Pretty sure that was you. She studied his face, saw something there, and adjusted fast. You are right, I am thinking of another night, she chuckled. Too many team outings, I swear. She turned away a little too quickly. He stared hard at his drink. I caught that crack between them and something cold slid through me. This was not a simple misunderstanding. There was a story they were both stepping around. I looked at him and raised one eyebrow, just a slight question. He did not meet my eyes. Instead, he started a new conversation with someone across the table. For the rest of the night, I watched their distance in inches. When she moved closer, he shifted back. When I moved away, they drifted together again. It was like a slow tide I could not stop. I laughed when everyone laughed. I answered questions when people asked, underneath. Everything, my brain sketched timelines and lies. When the bill came, he grabbed it quickly. Emily slid her card out too. We can split it. Their hands bumped and neither moved right away. He finally took the check. I have it this time. His voice dropped slightly. She smiled and pulled her hand back with a little flourish. You always do. That word always ran through my head on a loop. Outside, people peeled off toward cars and ride shares. Emily wrapped him in a hug that lasted a beat too long, then turned to me. She hugged me again tighter. I am really glad you came. Her mouth was near my ear. He really needed a night like this. The way she said he made my skin crawl. On the drive home, the silence sat heavy. He adjusted the air and checked the mirrors like we were strangers sharing a ride. I kept my eyes on the road ahead. My tongue felt too big for my mouth. Every sentence I tried to form sounded like drama in my head. He turned the radio on low, then off again. So, I finally broke. How many times have you and Emily gone out alone? His fingers tightened on the steering wheel. We do not go out alone. His answer came too fast. It is always team stuff. You were just there, you saw. I stared at him. She brought up another night that did not include me. He exhaled sharply. She got mixed up. He shook his head once. She goes out with people constantly. You are reading patterns where there are none. That line made me want to scream. Instead, I asked softer, why did she know your coffee order better than I do? He laughed without humor. Because I see her at work every single day. You drink whatever is near. He glanced at me annoyed. Do you want her to get it wrong just so you do not feel threat? The word threatened burned. It turned my very real fear into some weak insecurity. I looked out the window and swallowed hard. I want you to admit this is a little more intense than normal coworkers. My throat ached as I spoke. You cannot pretend I imagined how close you two are. He drummed his thumb on the steering wheel. You showed up ready to hate her. That is the real issue. That threw me. I did not show up ready to hate anyone. My voice rose despite myself. I showed up ready to finally meet the person who messages you at all hours. He scoffed. You are obsessed with this narrative. He shook his head. You made things awkward tonight, you know that. The worst part was that he was right about one thing. I did feel awkward. I did feel out of place. That made it easier to believe I had ruined everything. I sat there replaying every moment where my tone got sharp or my face gave away too much. By the time we pulled into the driveway, shame wrapped around me tighter than anger. Inside, he kicked off his shoes and checked his phone instantly. His eyes flicked over the screen, lips pressed into a thin line. I watched from the hallway. Everything good. My voice came out small. He typed fast, then locked the screen. I am telling her we are home. That word we sounded defensive now, not tender. I leaned on the wall. You text her that when you get home. He rolled his eyes. She is my colleague and my friend. I do not need your approval to send a message saying I drove back safely. I did not answer. My brain saved that detail anyway. It meant he had been doing this regularly enough for it to feel normal. That night, sleep refused to come again. I lay there next to him, listening to his breathing. My mind bounced between images of her hand on his arm and his quick denial about the rooftop bar. Those pieces did not fit with the version of him who once told me everything as soon as it happened. Somewhere along the way, those doors had closed. Writing it now, I can see that meeting as the real turning point. Before that night, I had doubts and screenshots and a knot in my gut. After that night, I had seen their chemistry in real time. I had watched them protect a shared secret in front of my face. Once you witness that, you cannot unsee it, no matter how many times you are told you imagined it. The bank alert popped up while he was in the shower. I watched his phone light on the dresser, my name on the joint account notification. For once it was not a message from her, so my guard dropped for half a second. Then I saw the amount and the merchant name and my stomach flipped anyway. Rooftop lounge on a Tuesday. He swore he worked late without a break. I picked up my own phone instead of his and opened our banking app. The screen loaded slowly, like it knew what I was about to do. His card had 3 recent charges I did not recognize at all. The rooftop bar, a rideshare across town, and a hotel downtown tied to the same night. Everything inside me suddenly went very still. I started writing the dates on a notepad with a shaking hand. Tuesday night, rideshare from near the office to that bar. 2 hours later, another charge from the hotel I recognized from ads. On his way home, he had walked through the door yawning and relaxed. He told me he grabbed takeout after a brutal day at his desk. I clicked each transaction for details and scrolled like a detective, not a spouse. The rideshare pickup point was 3 blocks from their building, the drop at the hotel. My throat felt dry as I checked the rooftop charge again for the time. Timeline set, story cracked, the version he sold me no longer fit. I screenshotted every line and emailed them to myself before I could chicken out. By the time he came out wiping his hair, I had 3 pages of notes. I shoved them under a magazine when I heard the bathroom door open. He walked into the room humming, completely at ease, and kissed my forehead. That casual touch made my skin prickle because now I knew too much. I smiled back and it probably looked wrong on my face. Want anything from the store? He pulled on his watch and checked the time. No, we need to talk. My voice came out rough and quiet. He froze just enough for me to notice, then tried to smooth it away. About what? He grabbed his phone like he needed something to hold. About last Tuesday and about your bar tab. I spread the printed statements on the bed like cards in a game. His eyes landed on the bar name first, then the hotel charge right after. All the air seemed to leave the room between us. I watched his face more than the papers because that told the truth. His expression went from confusion to calculation to irritated calm. What is this supposed to prove? He tapped the page with one finger. It proves you were not eating takeout at your desk that night. I forced myself to keep my tone measured, almost boring. You went to that bar, then to this hotel, then home to me. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my teeth. He let out a short laugh that sounded more like a bark. You really printed our bank statements for this. His mouth curled slightly. You realize how invasive this is, right? He shook his head slowly. This is not normal behavior, this is obsession dressed up as concern. He stepped back from the papers like they were something dirty I made. Invasive is hiding a hotel visit from your wife. My hands trembled visibly. I am done letting you tell me I imagine things that are right here. I pointed at the date and the hotel name again for my own courage. Who were you with that night? Because I am not buying alone anymore. The word alone tasted bitter and stupid as soon as it left my mouth. He stared at the ceiling for a second like he was asking for patience. Client meeting ran long, then the team grabbed a drink. His voice flattened out. The hotel bar was quiet, that is all it was. He crossed his arms. Nothing scandalous happened, unless you count me falling asleep on a chair. He looked straight at me like he expected that story to stick. You told me you never went to a rooftop place at all. My pulse thundered, but the anger helped hold me together. Emily mentioned a rooftop the other night. You denied ever being there. I slid the page closer to him so he had to see it. So either she was wrong, the bank is wrong, or you were lying. He clenched his jaw, then relaxed it again on purpose. You are dragging my coworker into your spiral now. His eyes narrowed slightly. She gets animated and exaggerates. She probably meant some other night. He tapped the hotel line again, not the bar. And we used the lounge lobby there, not a room. You can stop dancing around the words. My voice cracked and I pushed through. You left work with her, you went out drinking, then you went to a hotel. I could hear myself and knew how it sounded, like a cross-examination. If I did that with some guy from my office, you would lose your mind. His face flared with something sharp before he smoothed it down again. He grabbed the papers and slammed them into a messy stack. You know what I see here? His breathing had picked up. I see a partner who does not trust me at all. He waved the pages slightly. Who would rather stalk our account than actually talk like an adult? Each word felt like a punch that somehow landed on my chest instead of his. I did talk, my voice rose without my permission. I asked about the texts, I asked about her, I asked about the rooftop. My hands flew out because my body was done staying still. Every time you called me crazy, oversensitive, or unstable. So now I am showing you something you cannot spin. He went quiet then, and that silence scared me more than yelling. He sat down on the edge of the bed and dragged his hands over his face. When he finally spoke, his tone shifted, softer, almost tired. Fine, you want honesty. Things with her got blurry for a bit. The word blurry made my knees feel weak. He kept his gaze on the floor while he continued. We stayed late a lot, we vented, we understood each other. Work has been intense, you have been distant, it just kind of happened. It was never physical, not in that way you are imagining. She is an emotional support I leaned on when you felt far away. That line knocked the wind out of me in a whole new way. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. You just called your emotional affair honesty and somehow made it my fault. I sat beside him, leaving space between us like a border. How did I become the reason you took her to a hotel bar? He flinched at the word affair like I had slapped him. It was not an affair, it was a connection that went too far. He rubbed his palms on his jeans, agitated. I never touched her, I never slept with her, I never did that. You are blowing up our entire life over conversations and a few drinks. You promised her a night alone in your texts, my voice wobbled now. You are glued to your phone with her, she knows your schedule better than I do. You walk into hotels with her and leave me home wondering why I feel insane. I felt my throat burn as I forced myself to keep going. How far would it have to go before you finally call it what it is? He stood up abruptly, pacing near the window. You have no idea how isolated I have felt this past year. I come home and you are cold, checked out, always suspicious. At work I felt appreciated, seen, not constantly accused or doubted. Is it really shocking I gravitated toward the person who does not treat me like a criminal? That part hurt because a small piece of it was not wrong. I had been on edge for months, jumpy around any sign of distance. But standing there looking at the bank statements, I knew why. My instincts had been ringing alarms while he patted me on the head. It is wild how fast you can forget your own reality when someone rewrites it daily. I am not proud of how I have reacted lately, I forced the words out slowly. I own the parts where I snapped or got defensive. But none of that forced you to lie about where you were. None of that forced you to hide charges and delete messages. You made those decisions all by yourself. He stopped pacing and stared straight at me. You went digging through my financial activity just to prove a story. You are not listening to anything I am actually telling you right now. You already decided I am a cheater and nothing I say matters anymore. He threw his hands up, frustrated, then dropped them in defeat. If nothing you say matters, why am I still here begging you to be honest? My chest ached from holding back sobs, but I stayed upright. I am asking you to tell me the whole picture so I can decide my next step. I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. Do you want to fix this, or do you just want me quiet again? His shoulders sagged a little, and for a moment he looked almost small. I do not want to lose you, his voice came out low and strained. I want us to get help, to talk to someone neutral, to reset. I can cut things off with her outside of work, keep it professional only. If you actually meet me halfway instead of playing detective. I should have walked away right then, I see that now. Instead, I felt my anger and love collide in the worst way. The part of me that still remembered our early years wanted to believe him. The part standing in front of the printed receipts knew better. Those two selves started wrestling inside my head for control. We ended that fight with no real resolution at all. He stuffed the papers into a drawer like he could bury the evidence. I curled up on my side of the bed, fully awake, listening to him breathe. He fell asleep faster than made sense after a blow-up like that. I lay staring into the dark, replaying the word blurry until it lost meaning. In the morning, his tone had swung back to normal. He made a weak joke about us both overreacting and needing a reset. He suggested brunch somewhere nice, like syrup and coffee could patch over betrayal. I nodded along because I was exhausted and tired of feeling hysterical. For a brief moment, I almost convinced myself we could move past it. What I did not know yet was that someone else had their own receipts. Not numbers this time, not bank lines I could argue away in my head. Real proof in motion with his hands where they never should have been. Proof that would burn through every excuse he had fed me. Proof that would finally make ignoring the truth impossible, even for me. My thumb hovered over the video thumbnail and I almost threw my phone. A mutual from his office had just dropped it in my messages with no warning. Thought you should see this sat above the clip like a dare. My chest thudded so loud I could hear my own pulse in my ears. I hit play before I could talk myself out of it. Music blasted through tiny speakers, people shouted and laughed over each other. The camera panned across a crowded room, then jerked toward a darker corner. There he was, pressed against her, his th on hers like they were alone. It lasted maybe 3 seconds, but my brain stretched it into hours. His hand rested low on her back, not some accidental brush, a full claim. Her fingers curled in his shirt, pulling him closer, eyes closed like this was routine. They moved together in a way you cannot fake, no matter how drunk you are. I replayed the clip 3 times with my hands shaking. On the fourth run, I hit pause right when their faces met. His eyes were shut, his head tilted, his whole body leaning in. This was not a surprise ambush, this was participation, and my stomach turned. For a moment, I tried to grab any excuse I could. Bad angle, weird lighting, maybe a joke that spun out too far. Then I hit play again and watched his hands slide up her side. Whatever this was, it did not look reluctant, it looked practiced. I scrolled back to the message that came with it. When did this happen? I typed so fast I mistyped his name. The answer came almost immediately, like my coworker friend had been waiting. Last Friday, office party, I thought you were there, you were not. My fingers slipped on the screen as I replied. Why are you sending me this now? It was all I could manage. The little dots appeared, disappeared, then came back again like she hesitated. I could not watch him lie to you anymore, and people saw, and everyone is pretending. I stared at that line longer than the video. People saw, people knew, and they still made small talk with me. What exactly did you see? I needed it spelled out, no wiggle room. She answered with one more blow. They were all over each other, that clip is the tame part. My hands were numb when I set the phone down. The room felt tilted, like the floor could slide out from under me. Every conversation about emotional boundaries suddenly sounded like a sick joke. He had sworn up and down that nothing physical had ever happened, and here it was. I forwarded the clip to my email and saved it in a private folder. Then I screened it again on my laptop, full size, no escape. I watched his body language with the kind of sharp focus that hurts. If I ever doubted my own memory again, I wanted this anchor waiting. His keys jingled at the door while the progress bar still glowed. I did not move, I did not close the screen, I just waited. He walked in calling my name, then stopped when he saw my face. Something in his eyes flickered like he sensed the air had changed. Everything okay? His voice floated in from the hallway, lighter than the room deserved. Come here. I did not raise my volume, but it landed hard anyway. He stepped into the doorway, saw the laptop, saw the frozen image on the screen. His whole body tightened like someone had grabbed his spine. I pressed play without looking at him. The sound filled the room again, the same music, the same crowd. We both watched our marriage shatter on a cheap party recording. When it ended, I paused on their faces again and turned the laptop slightly. Anything you want to clear up? My throat felt raw, my voice steady. He opened his mouth, closed it, then dragged a hand down his face. It is not what you think. The line came out on reflex automatic. I laughed once sharp, that clip shows your tongue in her mouth. He flinched at my wording more than the evidence. We were drunk, everyone was taking shots, it got out of hand. He paced 2 steps, then back, like the room had shrunk. I do not even fully remember that moment, it was a stupid mistake. I tapped the spacebar again and played it one more time. Your hand knows exactly where to go for someone who barely remembers. I kept my eyes on the screen because I could not look at him yet. You told me for weeks that nothing happened, that it was never physical, and you looked me straight in the face. He sank onto the edge of the couch like his legs folded. I know I messed up, I know, his voice cracked for the first time. I panicked, I was scared to lose you, so I minimized it. Hearing him call that level of lying minimizing made my skin go cold. You did not minimize it, you erased it. My hands trembled in my lap. You watch me ask direct questions and you call me unstable instead. I could hear my own breathing now, fast and uneven like I had run. You went to a hotel with her, you kissed her at a work party, and you still tried to make me feel insane. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. She was going through a rough time, we got too close, I should have ended it earlier. He squeezed his hands together until his knuckles blanched. That night she pulled me aside, she started crying, then she kissed me and I went along with it. I shook my head slowly because the clip was still right there. You are acting like she dragged your body around like a puppet. I finally looked at him and did not recognize the man in front of me. You are kissing her back, you are holding her. You are not frozen in shock, you are leaning in. He pressed his palms to his eyes, voice muffled. I hate myself for it, you have no idea how guilty I have felt. I kept trying to fix things with you so I could forget that night. I swear to you that video is the worst thing I have done, and I regret it every second. Here is the part that still embarrasses me when I remember it. A tiny piece of me wanted to comfort him when he started crying. Years of muscle memory tried to kick in and help him feel better. I had to physically push my hands under my thighs to keep them still. I am sure you feel terrible, I look back at the frozen image. I am sure it hurts that your little secret got caught on camera. What I cannot get past is how easy it was for you to watch me unravel. You watched me doubt my own mind and you still chose yourself every time. He lurched up and reached for me like contact could fix this. I do not want her, I want you, this woke me up. He moved closer, tears streaked down his face, shoulders shaking hard. I will cut her off completely, change teams, switch jobs if I have to, anything. I stepped back until my shoulders hit the wall. If you did not want her, you would not be kissing her like that. If you did not want this, it would not have gone this far in the first place. I am done measuring your feelings by how much you cry afterward. He scrubbed at his face, frustration creeping back under the pleading. You are acting like I have been living some double life for years. This was one stupid, ugly event that I am willing to spend forever making right. You are blowing up our entire world over 30 seconds at a party. 30 seconds you lied about over and over, I jabbed a finger at the screen. 30 seconds that matched the texts, the late nights, the secret rides, everything. I could feel something steady rising under the pain now, almost like clarity. You did not slip once, you built a whole separate story and fed it to me daily. He went very quiet then and his tone dropped low. Do you want me to lose my job and my reputation over this? Because if this gets out at work, that is exactly what happens. There is context, there is nuance, but no one will care once they see that clip. He was not worried about me at that moment, he was worried about fallout. Your first fear is how this looks for you, not how it hit me. I let that sink in for both of us because it mattered more than he knew. If I send this to HR or her boyfriend or your boss, that scares you more than losing me. Please do not drag her through this, he blurted, almost desperate. She already struggles with anxiety and this would wreck her. He caught himself and straightened, but the damage was done. Even now in this wreckage, he was still rushing to shield her. That was the moment something solid snapped in my chest. When I showed you the bank records, you called me controlling. When I begged you to stop, you told me I was suffocating you. Now I have literal proof of you cheating, and your priority is protecting her and your image. He took a step toward me and stopped when he saw my face. What do you want me to say? His voice came out shredded and small. I am begging you, tell me what to do, I will do it. I realized he wanted a script, not responsibility, and that hurt even more. You cannot talk your way out of this anymore. My voice dropped until it almost rasped. There is no sentence you can deliver that erases that video from my head. I need you to understand that this changed something permanent for me. I do not trust you, and I do not trust myself around you, and that is dangerous. We stood there in a heavy silent standoff, both breathing hard. The laptop hummed softly, frozen on his mouth against hers. I reached over, saved the clip to an external drive, and ejected it. He watched me like I was loading a weapon. I am keeping a copy somewhere you cannot touch. I slipped the drive into my pocket. Not to blackmail you, not to destroy you, but to keep myself grounded. If you ever try to rewrite this again, I want to know I am not losing my mind. His shoulders slumped, like he finally realized that particular game was over. That night we did not sleep in the same bed. He camped on the couch with a blanket and a bottle, staring at the ceiling. I lay in the bedroom with the door closed, fingers closed around the drive. Every time I closed my eyes, the party clip played again behind my eyelids. By morning, I knew this was bigger than saving a marriage. This was about saving whatever was left of me after months of being twisted. I did not tell him that yet, not out loud, not that day. But inside, a decision had started, slow and steady, and this time it was not about him at all. I booked the lawyer during my lunch break, not his. A friend from work texted a name, I copied it straight into my phone. My hand. DS trembled a little as I spelled my last name. When the assistant offered an appointment 2 days out, I heard myself say yes. That was the first time I made a move without centering him. I sat in the parking lot afterward and watched my call log. His name sat above the lawyer's, two very different kinds of history. Part of me wanted to delete the new number and go home. Another part was tired of living inside his version of events. The tired part won, and that scared me less than it should have. 2 days later, I walked into the office and signed my name. No dramatic speech, no long story, just bullet points and dates. The attorney asked short questions, direct, no sugarcoating, which I weirdly appreciated. He broke down what separation would look like, how accounts should be handled. Hearing everything framed like logistics instead of drama made something inside click. Open an account in your name only tomorrow if possible. He slid a simple checklist across the desk, nothing romantic about it. Move a reasonable amount, document everything, do not drain anything suddenly. Give yourself a safety net before you confront him with final decisions. I nodded while my pulse hammered because having a plan felt dangerous. The next morning, I walked into a bank branch and sat down. I gave my ID, answered security questions, watched the screen populate slowly. When the banker asked why I needed a separate account, I lied. Just want to keep some savings organized, I said, keeping my face neutral. Inside, it felt like I was finally building a small life raft. Transferring the money made my fingers go numb over the keypad. I moved enough to stand on my own for a while. Not enough to look like theft, enough to breathe without his permission. Every beep of confirmation felt louder than it probably was. I half expected him to burst through the door and stop me. He did not notice anything that day, at least not visibly. Instead, he swung the other way and turned the charm up high. He brought home food from my favorite place and a bottle of wine. He talked about planning a weekend away, somewhere relaxing, just us. It felt less like love and more like a fire sale on apologies. Look, I have been thinking a lot, he set his fork down slowly. We should find a counselor, someone who can help us reset better. He reached across the table and covered my hand, squeezing gently. I crossed lines with her. I own that. I am here now. If you keep punishing me, though, we will never get past this. That word punishing made my jaw clench so tight it hurt. I am not punishing you, I am reacting to what actually happened. I pulled my hand back and folded both in my lap. You lied to my face for months and questioned my sanity constantly. You do not get to frame my hurt as cruelty toward you. He leaned back, eyes searching my face like I was a puzzle. So what, you want me to grovel forever, is that the plan? I am trying to fix this and you keep moving the finish line. At some point you decide if you are in this or not. The implication hung there heavy, like a dare I was supposed to dodge. I did decide, the words came out before I could soften them. I called an attorney, I moved money, I am preparing to leave. His mouth opened then shut, like the sound had been knocked out. I needed to be sure before I said anything out loud. Now I am sure and I need you out of this house. He laughed once, harsh, no humor in it at all. You are not serious, this is our place, my name is on everything. You are having a meltdown over one mistake and a messy video. I am not packing a bag because you want to play judge. My heart raced, but the decision in my chest did not move. You can stay until the end of the month, then we separate. I kept my voice even because I did not trust his reactions. I will be filing, the papers are already being put together. We can do this with lawyers or we can do this screaming. I am too tired to scream, so I am choosing paperwork. He shoved his chair back hard enough to scrape the floor. You are blowing up our whole life to feel right on the internet. You care more about some imaginary audience than about your own husband. Do you have any idea how childish and dramatic you sound now? He paced the kitchen, running his hands through his hair in jerks. I watched him move and felt strangely calm under the adrenaline. Nobody online told you to kiss your coworker at a party. Nobody online took you to hotel bars and hid the receipts. That was all you, without any help from my supposed drama. I am just refusing to pretend it was a rough patch. That night he started his campaign outside our walls. I heard him on the phone in the next room, voice lowered. He told his mother I had pulled away, that I was unstable lately. He hinted that I might be depressed and lashing out, poor me. He framed himself as the one fighty. NG for us while I gave up. A few hours later his sister texted me with a sad face. He told me you are leaving out of nowhere. Are you okay? I stared at the screen, amazed at how fast he moved. He cheated, I replied, thumbs tapping hard, with a coworker and lied constantly. Her response took a long time, then came back cautious and neutral. I do not know what to believe. He seems wrecked. This is messy. There it was, the split screen I had been dreading, two realities. The version where I was emotional and impulsive, breaking a good thing. The version where he was reckless and selfish, now begging for sympathy. Standing between them felt like standing between two mirrors that never ended. I packed in stages, not all at once, to avoid triggering explosions. First the important documents, then some clothes, then sentimental things that mattered. Every time I filled a bag, I pictured him rummaging through it. I stored the boxes at a friend's place across town, quiet. Each trip out felt like smuggling pieces of my own life. On the last morning, I woke up before his alarm buzzed. He was still asleep on his side, face relaxed, almost boyish. For a second, nostalgia hit hard enough that I had to sit down. This was the version of him my brain kept crawling back to. The one that made it so easy to swallow his lies earlier. I shook his shoulder gently because I wanted him fully awake. We are done, I said, clear, no shaking, no room for argument. I am staying with a friend until the legal part is finished. You can work out the rest through your attorney, not through me. He blinked up at me like I was speaking another language. You do not have to do this. His voice sounded hoarse and frightened. We can fix it, we can. People survive worse than this every day. I will block her, I will transfer departments, I will do anything you want. His hand reached for mine, gripped tight, eyes wide and begging. I pulled away and watched that hurt flash across his face. You already did everything you wanted. I stood up so I would not fold. You wanted someone new, you wanted a secret, you wanted a safety net. When I noticed, you wanted me quiet more than you wanted me loved. I cannot unknow that, and I refuse to live inside it anymore. He looked smaller somehow, but pity could not outweigh self-respect this time. I loaded the last suitcase into my friend's car while he watched. He stood on the porch with his arms wrapped around himself, silent. No speeches, no grand gesture, just this stunned stare that followed each trip. If he thought calling me stubborn would drag me back, he miscalculated. Fear was still there, sure, but the decision was louder now. That night on my friend's couch, the quiet felt brutal and clean. No pinging watch, no forced small talk, no tense walk on eggshells. Just my own thoughts, loud and messy, spilling in every direction. I cried hard once, then stared at the ceiling until my eyes hurt. Leaving him did not magically fix the crazy feeling in my head. The next day I saw the fallout start online in real time. Mutuals posted vague quotes about people who throw everything away. A coworker of his liked a status about loyalty and forgiveness loudly. I could practically hear his version traveling through group chats and break rooms. Part of me wanted to log off completely and disappear from everyone. Instead, I opened my laptop and clicked into a blank post. My fingers hovered over the keys while my heart pounded wildly. I knew he would hate this, would call it airing dirty laundry publicly. But I needed witnesses who were not already wrapped in his charm. I needed strangers who could say out loud that I was not insane. I typed the title first because that was the easy part. I think my husband has got it going on with his younger coworker, but he tells me that I am insecure and destroying our marriage by not letting it go. Then I hit enter and started telling everything piece by piece like this. By the time I reached the last line, my hands finally steadied. I still felt like the unhinged one, but for once the story was mine.